Hi everybody, this is Skeptic Sage. I'm responding to the above silly video. Yet another incredibly stupid video put out by Ummah Films. I thought about making a video a lot like theirs, satirizing their capacity to intercut different clips together and to be satirical and funny. But you know what? I decided not to stoop to their standards and lower myself. I don't believe that you should use tricks or techniques in order to cover up the fact that you're not really saying anything particularly intelligent. I also don't like the fact that Ummah Films does not allow anyone to specifically give a response to their films, most of the time either written or in video form. Sometimes they allow written, but it looks like all the responses were written by people on their staff. In this video, the man in question, who apparently thinks he's very clever, says that it is very, very difficult to be a Muslim these days. Yeah, it really, really is difficult to be a Muslim when all your compatriots are, walking around shooting people. Sometimes being a skeptic, being a free thinker, an atheist is also very, very difficult, and I find that unlike the gentleman in the film, I find that most Muslims actually know less about their religion than most atheists know, especially those who are scholars, or especially those who actually read things like the Quran or the Sunnah. Their perceptions of their own religion are twisted. Think about it. Yes, their own perceptions of their religion is twisted. They have a perception of their religion that has almost nothing to do with their religion because they've been spoon-fed, as our gentleman in this video likes to say, by a Muslim media, kind of like Ummah Films, that likes to give propaganda, likes to cherry-pick its data, and likes to only show one side of Islam without really answering or asking any of the tough questions about some of the things that are going on in the world in Islam and Christianity and any other religion. They say that Islam does not teach violence. I've always found that an incredibly peculiar thing to say. I've read the Quran. I've also read most of the Sunnahs, even though there's a lot of them. I've attempted to read them. And I've also read a number of very famous biographies of the Prophet Muhammad. And the Prophet Muhammad, in all of these writings, justifies violence repeatedly. In these same writings, violence is justified repeatedly by the example of the Prophet and by the example of the Ummah community. So it is very, very odd to hear Islamic people go on and on about how they're misunderstood and how because they say peace be with you every time they, or peace be with Allah or whatever the hell they say, because they say this back and forth to each other every time they meet, this is supposed to convince us that they are in fact peaceful and they come from a peaceful religion. Very odd, since their religion teaches violence and has taught violence since its very beginning, in the same way that Christianity and Judaism have also taught violence. It's funny that our gentleman in this video talks about violence as being something that doesn't come from Islam, yet their own writings have violence in them, and I feel like saying, gee, getting real close to the camera the way he does, maybe that's where the violence comes from. If you believe in violent things and you read violent things, you're probably more likely to engage in violence. If you believe in a holy man that has justified violence, if you believe in a holy book that justifies violence, you're probably more likely to engage in violence. He says that most of us Christians and most of us Westerners and most of us Americans, we don't know the difference between a Sikh and a Muslim and a Hindu. Well, yeah, that's hard to know the difference when you're from another country, but we do know that there are some similarities, which is that they all believe in bullshit. and that they all teach outrageous lies. Most Muslims don't know the difference between Jehovah's Witnesses, Baptists, Catholics, Pentecostals. Yes, and that's probably because they all look alike to Muslims, because they all teach a bunch of lies too. So it works both ways, doesn't it? He talked about random searches on airplanes that are not so random. Guess what? They're not random. They're not supposed to be random. The reason the searches of people on airplanes are not random is because religious violence is not random. When was the last time you heard of a Mennonite or a Quaker blowing themselves up and everybody else? When was the last time you had a Mormon hijacking an airplane? Well, that's probably because they don't teach you to do those things. And so if their holy book and their emphasis of what's in their holy book doesn't teach those things, they're probably not going to do those things. And there isn't any Quaker and any other holy men from any of those sects that has ever committed violence and justified it and then been recorded doing so. So that might have something to do with why they're not violent. By the way, I happen to look very Islamic, even though I don't have an accent, and when I go onto airplanes, I am always searched, and I am never treated any way even remotely like the gentleman describes, even though I'm always assumed to be Arab or Middle Eastern. It's just an accident of how I look. With the beard and everything, I even look like I might even be Islamic. I probably could put something on my head and probably pass, and no one would know the difference. By the way, if you don't know the difference between a Mennonite and a Quaker, don't worry. You haven't missed anything exciting anyway. This is Skeptic Sage telling you that, as usual, that if you have any extraordinary claims like Ummah film, you probably should have some extraordinary evidence to back it up the way Ummah film does not. It's interesting that Ummah film doesn't allow anyone to respond to their videos, and they do not respond to any of the responses that are made to their videos. Sounds like the behavior of someone who's afraid to debate and lose the debate. Just a thought.